All right, guys, so we're going to react to this very, very, very interesting conversation that these woke women of The Real TV show are having about whether or not you should have kids if you are financially unstable. Now, again, I found this topic to be very, very interesting because I currently do not have kids. And one of the reasons why I don't have kids is because I have a financial planning background. That's basically the industry that I used to work in before I started doing this. So I know how much it costs to actually raise kids and to bring them up in an environment in which they're going to be successful, or you're going to maximize their chances of being successful and having a good life, right? And for me personally, I think that until I achieve a certain financial status that I'm comfortable with for the life that I want to provide for my kids, I think it's best not to have them until you actually reach that level. But that's just me. However, there are other philosophies out there, right? There's a lot of conservatives that, are kind of big into, getting married early, having kids early, starting a family early, and doing all that stuff, right? But I think that in today's time, in my opinion, I think that it's probably better to wait a little bit while longer until you have hit, your peak earning years to have kids. That's just my opinion, okay? But I do want to react to what these women are saying before I get too deep into this conversation.
According to a post on Scary Mommy, your financial situation should not be a determining factor in whether or not you have kids. The writer explains that both of her pregnancies were surprises, and that just because she and her partner weren't financially stable at that time didn't mean that she should have ignored her dream to start a family. In fact, the author suggests most families don't have enough money in the bank to justify having kids, but they decide to have them anyways. So, ladies, do you think it's fair to a child to have them if you're not financially stable?
All right, I'm gonna just answer this question off the bat from my perspective. I think the answer to that question is no, right? If you can't provide for your kid on all levels, emotionally, financially, spiritually, then it's probably not fair to bring them into this world, right? It's probably not fair to have them because you want kids if you really can't provide for them, okay? So that's just my initial kind of opinion on that question.
Who gonna take care of the kids if they ain't got no money?
Yeah, exactly. But more, I think, okay, the word stable, what
Yes.
exactly are we saying when we say stable? Are we saying stable like you can lock down like now until the next 20 years, I've got a job? Like, I
No,
think there's a
just
difference.
not.
In my opinion, I think stable means having a predictable income, right? And also a stable family, a stable home, right? So a mom and a dad with predictable income. That is the ideal situation. That's the ideal situation.
Not struggling.
I think the
There's
two
a
most
difference
important things for kids to have is health and safety.
Yes.
And I don't think those things always have to cost a lot of money.
Agreed.
I know many families who
Gotta
live in
be
huts.
safe.
And they're yes.
I'm sorry, one more time.
I know families who live in huts, like in different parts of the country, where their families may not have what we think
Not
are
this
like.
country. We
Yeah.
live in a hut. in
No,
this country.
but
Living in a
Loni,
hut in this country might not be safe.
But they are safe. What I'm saying is the families that don't have what we consider as the stability have the safety and the health that the kids need in order to be in an environment where they feel love.
100%.
For me, my parents combined made about $30,000 when I was growing up. And I felt like the richest kid in the world, you guys, because I got so much love and so much attention. Now, granted, I didn't have the same type of toys that the other kids had. 2 chopsticks can make a really creative set of drums for 5 years. But I had what I felt I needed. And so I would never tell a mother and father that they need to have a certain amount of money to have kids, but they need
You
to make
need
sure they
a
have
certain amount of money to have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here's the thing, right? She's saying that when she grew up, her family was making about $30,000 a year. Now, this woman is in her 40s, okay? Now, $30,000 a year, I guess growing up in the 80s, I'm assuming she was growing up in the 80s, maybe this late 70s or whatever, right? That's a lot more money then than it is today, right? Today, trying to live off $30,000 a year is going to be rough no matter what part of the country you live in, okay? But I think what she's missing here is that even if you have that safety and health, which is what she's arguing is what you need, even if you don't have stability. what happens is that if you don't have the finances, you're not going to be able to provide for your kids in a way that's going to make them competitive, right? What I mean is that you're not going to be able to send them to the best schools because you're not going to be able to live in the best neighborhoods, okay? A lot of schools and their funding come from local property taxes. So if you live in a bad neighborhood, your kid is probably going to go to a bad school that's underfunded. If you live in a good neighborhood, your kid is probably going to go to a good school that is well funded, okay? So you need to be in a position financially that, at very least in my opinion, is middle class, upper middle class, before you even think about having kids, okay? Because if you don't, you're going to bring them up in an environment that is not going to allow them to actually be competitive in life. And that's what people got to really think about. These women, some of whom will say they grew up in poor environments and they made it and whatnot. That's true. But they're exceptions to the rule. They're not the rule, right? Most kids that are pretty successful in life, they grow up in strong, stable homes, right? With stable families, stable incomes, decent incomes, where their parents can actually provide for them and give them resources that they need to get ahead. For me personally, again, one of the reasons why I haven't had kids yet is because I want to be able to provide for my kids a world-class education, right? I want my kids to be able to know multiple languages. I want them to know how to code. I want them to do a whole lot of things that's going to cost money at a young age. I want them to learn this stuff at a young age, and the reason why is because that helps with brain development, that helps with cognitive development, and that's going to help them be more competitive in the classroom and ultimately be more competitive in society and be successful, right? I've thought this out. I've thoroughly thought it out, okay? And that's just for me personally. But I think that's the way that people have to start thinking when they're thinking about having kids. What can you provide for them that's going to make them more competitive than the next person's child, right? And I know people hate to look at the world that way, but that's the honest to God truth. If you want your family to achieve generational wealth and social mobility, you have to do family planning, right? You have to plan all this stuff out. Okay, it's really that simple. And the families that don't plan this stuff out, that don't ask themselves what type of education, what type of environment do I want my kids to grow up in, their kids are gonna be behind the 8 ball, right? They're gonna be less likely to be successful.
I agree with the love factor 100% because I grew up very, very poor, like really poor, and we struggled growing up.
Yes, we the poor section, right here.
Really poor.
We grew up poor. Project girl all the way, okay? But I made TV today.
Boom. Right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, again, you're an exception, right? You're not the actual rule. You're an exception, which is good for her. It's good for her.
Shout out to the Vladeck Project in New York City, government-owned housing, yes. But this is my thing. I think there's a difference between saying you are financially stable and saying you are broke. Now, okay? There are some people that are broke, that there's a child coming into this world, they do not have the money to even cover the prenatal care. Guys, we have to think realistically. It sounds really nice.
That's health.
Yes, but it sounds really nice to say love is enough, but we have to be responsible parents.
I'm not saying love, I'm saying health and safety.
Yes. But I agree. I'm not saying it sounds nice to just say love, which I'm not saying you are only saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, go ahead.
This is an interesting conversation because I agree with Jeannie because sometimes life just happens.
And
then you
step up
have
to the plate.
make it work. And there are lots of parents who bust their you-know-what to make
100%.
it work.
And that has consequences, okay? My parents were one of those parents that had to do that, right? That had to make it work and bust their tail to do it. And I'm glad and I'm thankful that they did that. But growing up, right, getting more wisdom as I grow up, I've learned that, okay, that may have been good for me at the time, considering where they came from, right, which is a very rural part of, this country, not necessarily, a great part of the country. However, if they did not have to do that, if they could have spent more time with me or, my siblings or whatever, we probably would have been more well-equipped in certain aspects of our life. Probably would have had advantages in certain aspects of our life, right? So when you talk about parents, right, that just, hey, it just happened, right? It was unexpected. I got pregnant or whatever. That's something that, people really should try hard to avoid happening, okay? Because we have birth control, we have condoms, we have everything in the world to help people avoid having kids. Hopefully they don't get abortions, but I'm just saying we have everything in the world to help people avoid having kids. And if you have one and you're not actually ready for one, that is actually the worst situation that you put yourself in. Because now, even though you're working to provide for your kids, you're not spending time with them, which is really more important to a certain extent than actual money, right? So, again, that happens way too often. And it happens way too often in terms of unexpected children, particularly with those people who are not married, okay? And that's how you end up with a lot of single mothers and kids growing up in poverty. It's too much of that, oh, well, it just happened type of thing. It should never happen considering the birth control and the methods that we have to avoid it happening.
Yep.
Yes.
But they bust their you-know-what to get what? To get what?
Yeah, money.
To make it work.
Yes. However, then I agree with you. Having children, I mean, they're a lot of money.
Yeah. I'll tell you.
They're super expensive. And they're going to go into the statistics on how expensive kids actually are.
Exactly how much?
I did some research.
Look at that.
You guys are smart. Tell me.
But wait, let's see if we found the same thing. So according to the Department of Agriculture, it would cost $233,610 for a middle-income family to raise a child born in 2015.
Okay.
That's until they are 17, but that's just 2015.
What kind of family?
It's a middle-income family.
Okay, so we also need to consider that a lower-income family would be even less than this. And when I divided that 17 years to 233,000. It is $13,741 a year. Now that is middle.
$13,000
a year.
That's
a year.
What did you just say?
That's it?
These are rich people talking, right? This is how people talk when they're rich, right? $13,000 a year, that's it? But imagine if you're making $65,000 a year, which is the average income for American households. $65,000 a year. So out of that $65,000, once you pay taxes on that, it becomes what, like $42,000, right? Once you pay taxes on it, that's another $13,000 that you have to take away from that to raise a kid. Now you're looking at living off of almost what, $30,000, okay? So again, when you break it down like that, 1/6 of your income before taxes is going to having a kid. Right? And a lot of people don't actually think about it like that. Kids are expensive. We're talking about what, at least $1,000 a month that you have to put aside to provide for your kid if you are a medium income household. And that's probably the bare minimum, right? That's not including paying for them to go to a good college or paying for them to get tutoring or paying for them, to, get reading lessons or daycare or, all the other things that come along with having a kid, right? Buying a car when they become a teenager. All the stuff that comes along with it. And that's just one, right? So imagine having 2, 3, 4, 5 kids and trying to raise them on the average income for a household. That is not very sustainable. And in my opinion, my argument is that, yes, you can choose to have those kids if you want to. That's up to you. I would never tell you not to, right? Even though I don't necessarily think it's a good financial decision. But if you choose to do that, realize that you're putting your child behind the 8 ball. Right? When you do that. And in my opinion, you're not giving them the best chance at life to be successful because they don't have the resources to be as successful as possible because you decided to have a child before you actually was able to provide for them in a way that's going to make them competitive. That's my argument. There's also a wisdom factor, right? When you're having kids at a young age, like 19, 20, 21, 22, even fresh out of college, 25, 24, 25 years old, how much wisdom in life do you actually have, right? You really don't have that much wisdom. You really don't know all that much about life. And in my opinion, the more life experience that you have, that's the more experience that you can pass down to your kid. You make mistakes, you can pass it down to your kids so they avoid making mistakes. That's also another reason why, in my opinion, me personally, I think waiting a little bit later is better. Not just because you hit your financial peak, if you wait later, but also because of the wisdom that you gain as a person that you can pass down to your kids, right?
Ding, ding, ding. And that's for middle income. So if you are lower income, if we got to be realistic, whoever's doing these polls, they're probably spending more than is... They're giving it a little bit of cushion, I'm assuming. Now, when you really are raised broke and poor, you figure it out. I do agree that you figure it out. Trust me, you get creative.
Yeah, but figuring it out means that your kid is not going to have access to resources that other kids are going to have. Trying to figure it out means that your kid is not going to be as competitive when it comes to other kids in regards to them getting access to certain opportunities in life. That's the reality of the situation. I'm not saying, you can't figure it out. I'm not condemning anybody that chooses to, have kids before they're financially stable. I'm just saying, understand that you're not putting your kid in the best position. That's just my opinion.
Like make
Tam
a lot
said,
of meals out of
there's
Vienna sausages.
Yeah, you know that there's a life living inside you, and you just somehow figure out how
I'm
to step
talking
up
about,
to the
okay,
plate.
we understand that things happen. I'm talking
you gotta
about when
be
you're
responsible.
planning
I
and
do
you
think it's
saying, I
important.
can't take care of kids. I don't think that that's right.
No.
Because who is going to take care of those kids then? That's why I'm
The government. And the government gonna take care of the kids. Again, that's the problem, right? The government gonna take care of the kids because people choose to have kids before they can afford them. They choose to have kids out of wedlock, right? On single incomes. So therefore, the government has to take care of the kids. And when the government's taking care of the kid, that's how kids ended up being lifelong criminals, right? Being out in the street, committing crimes, going to jail, okay? Getting raised in bad environments. That's what happens. So, yeah, I thought this conversation was interesting. And in my opinion, I think that, generally speaking, people should probably wait until they're married, they're in a stable household with a stable family setting and stable income to have kids, right? At least middle class income, in my opinion, to put a kid in the best situation to be successful and competitive, right? In today's environment. That's just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.